Hello and welcome to ANK's Wheel of Time chapter by chapter book review or book analysis, where today we'll be discussing Book 1, Chapter 5, Winternight. So this has been certainly a very eventful chapter, with a lot of various things kind of happening with it. So. To start off, we have Tam and Rand, who have just arrived home from the events at Emmons Field, and because of the various events which have taken place, they are understandably acting very cautious and start to take a look around the farm from a security standpoint, as it were, just to make sure that everything's safe, everything is calm and as it should be, and they don't seem to find any problems initially. So they, after going around, and the farm is made up of three main areas, kind of triangular in shape by description. You've got the main house, you've got the barn, and you've got the sheep pen thing. And after they just find that everything's okay, they start doing. They packed Bella and the cart away and start doing some chores. Tam gets water from the well. Rand feeds the animals and starts chopping some wood.
He tests the well too, though, so you can obviously see that he's definitely taking precautions in all areas.
Yes.
Because he's actually tasting the water to make sure it tastes not being poisoned or anything.
True.
So yeah.
And everything is seeming okay for now.
I'm not sure how much of a normal farmer would test for poisoning in the water, though.
True. We do get a little bit. I will say one thing, and this will be discussed, more as we kind of delve into this chapter. But a lot more questions get raised this chapter in relation to Tam's background. But we will kind of get to that a little later on as we kind of learn more about what happened or how this chapter develops. So after doing those chores, or while some of those Rand is taking care of some of those chores, Tam has gone inside and has started to with a couple of buckets of water to for a couple of different reasons. One is for dinner purposes. He's in the process of making a stew. And also, for so they could have a nice warm bath a little later on as well, because, well, one would tend to amass an odor after a while.
Yes.
So after Rand has done the chores, Tam has they've both gone into the house to start to make preparations for dinner. And I think Tam tells Rand to wash up a little bit there, because the stew's not quite ready yet.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's more a case of that he wants to, but it doesn't want to because he wants to be able to wait until after dinner. But no, the thing that they do next is he locks up the house. Rand
Tam.
Tam key locks the house up. He locks them in for the night.
Which Rand finds unusual.
Which is unusual because no one locks their doors with the key in Emmonsfield. So there was that. And then he goes straight to the sword in the box under the bed,
which Rand had no idea about. And it's quite it looks quite nice, and Rand is initially thinking that it's decorative and kind of wondering why Tam
it's not too decorative, but it's more decorative than the other swords. It's not quite a katana, but it sounds similar-ish.
Kind of cross between katana and scimitar.
So, yeah.
I would say some kind of
a mixture
something
there.
in between.
But it's got a symbol on it, and he asks where it comes from, and the story goes that he bought it even against his
better judgment
and his wife's insistence on getting rid of it.
Oh, and he does raise some good points. I mean, what use is a sword on a farm? Realistically, I mean, it doesn't plough fields. It doesn't, feed animals. It's really, as in the way of a farm implement, really quite useless. And so there was plenty of questions raised in terms of why have it for.
Which is one thing which I think is the reason why it really isn't the story that was truthfully told about how it came into his possession. It's got to be.
I'm very much agreeing with you there. I'm thinking
inheritance of some kind, or something that he got from soldier days or something.
Oh, there's definitely some more background there that than Rand gets told at this point.
Yes. We
do find out one other point of interest at the early part during these early parts of the chapter, and that's that Rand's mother was an outsider.
Yes.
And so how that came to be, we don't know yet. Whether Tam had actually left the village to seek out adventure in the Great Wide somewhere,
and came back with an outsider wife,
is certainly one possibility. Another is that Rand's mother, and mind you, I'm kind of pulling this theory a little bit from the Aragon series, is that Rand's mother came to the village seeking safety, refuge.
Sanctuary.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're saying that she was pregnant at the time, found sanctuary with Tam, and then...
Oh, maybe not pregnant at the time even. She could have... it could have just been that she came there for sanctuary.
Yeah.
Found... she may have been injured or something at the time, possibly. Found Tam to be a kind soul who healed her wounds and gave her the care and attention that could happen, and things may develop from there. I mean, I don't know. I'm
in love with the healer, even though the healers are wisdoms. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, put a spanner in my theory then.
Well, the wisdoms heal. He's not a healer. He's a that's the wisdom's job.
Fair point.
Though then again, if he was a soldier of some kind, he does
may have
know how to wield a sword.
Well, not only that, but he may have at least battlefield medic training. Possibly.
Maybe.
Be able to tend up to some basic wounds.
Maybe.
But, yeah, well, again, I'm sure we'll learn more about Tam's background as this continues.
Maybe.
But anyway, not too long after this initial conversation, we get a boom, boom, boom on the door. And initially, Tam and Rand are wondering, okay, this has got to be our next door neighbour, even though the next door neighbour was quite some time.
No, it was late in the evening.
It was both. It was quite some distance away, and not exactly next door because we're talking a farm property here, so that's a bit of a trek. Not far, but I'd say maybe a kilometre or two away, roughly, by our reckoning, by reality reckoning, if you will. And it was late. It was dark, and they were thinking, but he never comes out at night.
Which is why they knew it was
something else. That there was more. That there was someone.
Or the thing.
That there was someone else there. But as to who, they weren't quite aware until the door got busted open. And the thing that busted open is this really large. The image I've got in my head, based on the description that's here, is a well-armoured minotaur.
I had the same description in my head when I was reading it, like from the Greek mythology.
Only it's a minotaur with horns on both sides.
Minotaur has horns on both sides.
Does it?
Yes, it does, darling. She's got a ghost head.
Ah, well. It was, but well armoured, because, it's described as having, chainmail, and we don't quite get a description of the weapon that he's got yet. But they bust in, and Rand is stunned. Tam immediately takes it with after a little bit of stun of what's happening. Tam reacts faster than Rand does.
Well, no, it's more a case of he reacts faster than Rand believed possible in a farmer, a simple farmer. But he clearly knew that something was wrong because he drew the sword when the banging occurred.
And he immediately tells Rand to run.
Yes.
So which I find, looking back on this, I do find that to be a very interesting thing. From a father's perspective, I can understand it on one score because he's trying to protect his son, and trying to get his son away from danger. But given what we learn a few pages later, I wonder if there's more to it than that. If somehow he knows that they're after Rand.
Of course he knows.
What do you mean, of course he knows?
It's clearly obvious when you're reading the book that there's little hints that are dropped just more and more that Tam knows a heck of a lot more than what he lets on. That he possibly even knows what this thing is that they're all seeing. Knowing all these signs, he probably even recognizes the signs and knows what they are, and as a result got out that sword.
Possibly.
I mean, like, think about it. He locked the doors, he grabbed the sword, he put it on his hip, even though they were eating supper and just going to go to bed.
I'm not disputing that he sensed that he was in there for security purposes. He had a sense that something was going to go wrong, but I don't think he. But he also made the comment there that, let's just hope that I'm overthinking this. Let's hope that I'm
overthinking it. In other words, he knows he's seeing the signs and he knows what's coming.
He's suspecting that something's about to happen, but doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyway, so battle begins in this little house. I mean, it's a decent-sized home for two people. Bigger than what would normally be necessary, but Rand...
I think he also knew the skill in which these... what they even call them?
Trollocs. We find that out a little bit later.
He knew the skill. He recognised that they were Trollocs for a start, and he also knew that they were quite skilled.
I agree that there's more to Tam than we've been told.
And as a result, he knew that if Rand was to attempt to fight one of these,
it probably wouldn't go well.
It wouldn't have gone well. Not to mention the fact that I do think that they definitely have something in terms of skill that.
Well, they seem more. As I said, if you picture a Minotaurs are thugs.
Yeah.
They're not your standard.
They seem to be a little more intelligent than a Minotaur, though.
Well, I'll grant you that, but only slightly.
Only slightly, yeah.
But we'll talk more about these creatures in a minute now, because we do get more detail on them after a little while. Rand goes to the back window. He checks the door.
He goes to the door, but he knows that the door...
It's got to be a trap.
He knows that the door is locked, so he doesn't even bother opening up the bar. But then it starts banging, so he runs to the window. He immediately runs to the window and jumps out the window instead. The idiotic thing he does next, though, is just beyond me.
Go on.
He then yells, "I'm out of the house, run!" Advertises where he is.
No, I'll pay you that one.
And that they're coming in from the back. Get out now! I'm outside! Run! Like, hello? Are you trying to advertise where you are? Like, you can
For
see.
his father's purposes, I can understand, yeah.
Oh, yes, but see, the problem is that you can really see how much he has not put any training or anything like that into Rand, and that kind of makes me curious, because if he's supposed to be the guardian and he knows more about the world and the surroundings and the stories and the histories than he lets on, then he's done a very poor job of preparing Rand for the future. True. In that respect.
Which really does raise, there's a lot of questions which do get raised in this chapter in that kind of respect, in terms of Tam's background, Rand's background, Rand's mother's background. I mean, which I really do. I am very much enjoying this book because it is raising a lot of really entertaining and kind of thought-provoking questions. But you're right. It's kind of, hi, bad guys, I'm here. Come kill me.
Yeah.
But anyway, he, initially, after telling his father that he's out, or yelling to his father he's out, he does run to the woods.
He does run to the woods, yes.
And he seeks out safety. For a while.
Well, no, he doesn't run directly to the woods. He runs, no. What he does is he pretends to run to the woods, making it so that the creatures following behind him think that he's running into the woods, and double backs across to the sheep pen. Oh, well, no, the stables / sheep.
Well, kind of area. Along that side of
around that side of the house, yeah.
The farm, the house thing, yeah.
Yes.
And actually, he
actually goes into.
He does that because he sees his father fighting for a little bit. He does see his father, fighting for a little bit, and then he goes in. After seeing his father fighting for a bit, he does go into the woods, and it's after he gets into the woods to where he thinks he's safe that his father can't.
He goes into the barn, darling.
Doesn't go into the barn.
Yes, he does. Okay, so he. Here, we got it right here. He shouts at the strange turn. Hang on, glass shatters. He guesses that one of them broke the window rather than trying to squeeze through the open door, but he did it. But he did not look back. He heads for the woods, then drops to his belly and slithers back to the barn and its larger, deeper shadows.
Alright, so he tries to do a little misdirection, but he does ultimately...
he does do misdirection.
I'm not disputing that.
He's at the barn. He goes back to the barn. And
just so he can... And that's where he sees... And doesn't get the pitchfork. He gets just a piece of wood, essentially. The handle. And once... Alright, I'll give you that. When he gets the handle and runs with this handle...
The hoe. He's got the hoe.
I'll go with handle.
It's a hoe. It says the hoe handle.
Handle. And he... Sheesh. And he runs into the woods, thinking a little ridiculous that, these big bulky guys, what's this pole going to do? But still, he runs with it into the woods and hides there and thinks he's safe.
No, he's not running away yet. He's watching the house.
And sees his father fighting. And he runs into the woods.
He sees his father run out.
Yes.
Runs around to the back thinking, and then he's like, oh, that's why he's running that way. So he calls out to him again, the lunatic, from the barn saying, I'm over here. And he tells him to run and runs in the opposite direction with all of the dudes running after him. And it's like he just has no self-preservation. I mean, the instinct to run did shame him, yes, but he also recognized that he had no skill to fight them. So I get that whole thing, right? But then he shouts his location twice.
Fair point.
It's like, really? Are you trying to kill yourself? Then he runs into the woods.
I'm able to get to that part now.
Well, you keep skipping bits. And of course he tells him to run, yes.
But you're right, they do go in opposite directions initially. Now that Rand has found some safety in the woods, he's trying to breathe calmly, but still in a very panic. He can feel the blood rushing through him, the adrenaline. And then he feels someone tap him on the shoulder and he thinks, oh, crap. But then realizes that that it's Tam, and that Tam and that he's glad that his father is okay, that he managed to find each other. But he also sees that his father has been injured, and so he realizes he's got a choice to make. He can either try essentially got three options. Either try and take his father as is to to the village, which bad idea because he's of how badly injured he is. Two is to go to the house and try and retrieve some medical supplies, cloth, hot water, just the basics that would be had on a farm. To try and act as a bandage and whatnot to try and do some basic medical thing. Or the other was to go to the barn and see if he could get the Bella and the cart so that he would be able to put his father on that, so to take him to the village and to the Wisdom Nynaeve so that he could get treatment.
So there was basically two options. He could go to the village as is and try and make it, or he can go and get some supplies that were at the house that could help to sustain his life and get him to the village potentially faster. And those things were Bella and the medication and the blankets and supplies.
Yeah.
But before all that happens, you get to learn about the fact that they're called Trollocs. That supposedly Rand asks a couple of questions, and Tam basically tells him that he's not actually fought them himself.
Just heard about them.
Just heard about them, yeah. And that they're like dogs, and that they're essentially the Dark Ones, sort of like, dogs.
The way I like to picture it, I've always been a big fan of chess. So I'm picturing these guys to be like the pawns. Sacrificial.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds about correct, right? Like much like your hound dogs or something like your sniffer hounds. They sniff out the prey and they bring it back, kind of thing, Because if you
bounty hunters, maybe.
No, not really bounty
no,
hunters.
Mercenary.
They don't kill. They're like the hounds. They
say mercenaries because
they
mercenaries
sniff them out and they bring them back.
Yeah, mercenary would work for that. But anyways, that kind of role. So we've got Rand decides to sneak back to to the farm to see what kind of supplies he can rustle up. He initially goes goes back pretty stealthily, or as stealthily as he knows how, so as not to arouse anyone's suspicions or anything suspicions as the case may be, and initially makes his way to the sheep pen where he notices that all the sheep are dead.
Well, everything is dead.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Tam tells him that, they can see well in the dark.
Good sense of smell too, I recall.
Good sense of smell, yes. But they're also lazy, so that if you persist in escaping and things like that, then they won't
chase after you too far.
Chase after you after a while, yes. So, he has a little bit of a knowledge to potentially keep them alive, and he shares that with Rand, so that when Rand goes back to get the supplies, because obviously he's wounded, right? So there's got to be something in their Trolloc swords or something that's poisoned him, because he's got a fever. True,
but that could also just happen from simple blood loss. It depends on the severity of the wound.
Yeah, true, but there's still a fever. They've not been fighting for that long. And a fever.
No, but as I said, it depends on the severity of the wound. I mean, there's a couple of different.
It's not a blood loss thing, because then he'd be dead on the floor.
Depending on how much. I'm just saying that it depends on the severity of the wound, and its poison might be involved. We don't know that yet.
Fever.
But yeah. So Rand makes it back to the house. Doesn't quite go in yet. He peeks through the window to see. Just to make sure that there's nothing moving in there.
Chooses. He looks at the forest and observes first, and sort of picks. Okay, which should I do? There's still light in the house, but there's no light in the barn. They don't like the light, so I'm going to choose.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose the house that's still lit.
The safer of the two options, essentially.
Yes, because I can see at least in the house, and when he looks into the house through the window,
he sees dead bodies.
He sees all of them laying dead.
Well, 4 of them anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how many there were, but
I do. I remember it was 4.
Okay. Well, they're all laying dead. So he sneaks in there as quiet as he can to get the supplies that are needed.
And after, so first thing he does when he enters the house, he gets hit with a whiff of really bad BO. And it takes a minute for him to kind of recover from that. And after that, he notices that one of them is actually slightly alive.
Well, no, he turns his back searching for the stuff and hears the noise, turns around, and one of them's actually moving, one of them's actually alive.
Calls himself Narg.
You probably know that.
Yeah, calls himself Narg. He initially sees that Rand is holding his father's sword because he has taken, and coming back to the house and with a plan to come back to supplies, he took the sword with him for protection. Not like his father was in much of a condition to use it where he was. And this Narg is like, we mean you no harm. I'm safe. You don't need the sword.
But he doesn't do it in a very
It's in a very basic kind of
sentences, like
Narg safe. You put sword down. Narg safe. You put sword down. It's very
others go away. Narg stay. Narg smart.
Yeah.
It's very basic, rudimentary.
Yeah, and the way that it's described is like it's definitely not this guy's native tongue. Like he only speaks very basic English. And he said, and here's where there's another kind of command higher type entity that we're introduced to at this point called Mir. I'm going to try and say it. Myrddraal, who is a Fade, and we don't know what Fades are yet, but whatever it is freaking the hell out of Rand. Because Fade, at the very least, we know that Fade's not good. If a Fade's after you, it's told in stories. It's kind of like the boogeyman of this series. That if you're not good, a Fade's going to get you.
Yeah. Well, he says that the worst of the stories was about those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, to hear that a Fade was after him, I'm sure there are a number of questions going through his mind right at that point. First of all, why the hell? I'm just a poor farm boy from this backwater place who's got no connection to the outside world whatsoever. Why me? Why is this person after me? But no time to really investigate that question at this point. And
he's trying to think, okay, how am I going to get out of this? He's obviously skilled at a sword. He's blocking the door.
You're talking the Trolloc guy at this point, Narg.
Rand is.
Rand's not skilled with a sword. He's never used one before.
No, but he's assessing his situation. His opponent is skilled with a sword. He's blocking the door, and he clearly has enough intelligence to play dead, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Agree.
So he's trying to think of a way out of this, and he can only see one of two things: A, he can fight, or B, he can pretend to try and trick him and pretend to.
Try and con the con artist, so to speak. Although I'm calling this a very basic kind of con artist in the case of the Trolloc.
Not so much con him, but more make him think one thing while he's really attempting to do another, which is to leap out the window and run.
So he does, while holding on tightly to the sword, he does lower his arms. And at that very moment that he does, the Trolloc charges him and does fall on top of him. And Rand is thinking initially, eek!
Well, he was unaware of how quickly he could actually move. because the idea was that he would be able to,
bring the sword up to defend himself.
either bring the sword up to defend himself or at least leap out of the way.
Or something.
Like his reflexes were rather quite quick.
Quicker than I think he anticipated, which
They
leads me to believe again that there's more to Rand than even he knows at this point, because
his reflex he managed to
bring the sword up in time so that the Trolloc was using his own weight, as it were, his own thrust to kind of stab himself.
Through, yeah, all the way through. Yeah.
So. Trolloc dead. I gotta admit, pretty cool on that one.
Rand can't believe he's actually alive. He's like, oh wow,
woo,
yeah. Can't really breathe because he's got this tremendous weight on him.
I'm having quite the humorous image right now of anyone who has watched Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, the Warg attack, where Gimli has got these, initially starts with a Warg on top of... Warg on top of him, then an Orc, and then two Wargs and an Orc is what it ends up being. And he ends up just being absolutely crushed. Quite frankly, how the heck he survived that, I got no idea, but it was quite humorous to watch. But I'm having a very similar kind of image happening to Rand here. Not quite, in terms of this really huge kind of, kind of take his breath away kind of thing.
He's trying to push them off for memory, and then another one comes up and crawls on him. He's about to take his face off, and he gets shot.
Warg, which he kills. Orc, which...
he kills.
Which he kills by snapping its neck. And then another Warg, which Aragorn ended up killing on top of him, yeah. But anyway, moving on. Just with the whole wind being taken out of him is kind of the image that I'm having of Rand with this huge kind of Trolloc Minotaur type thing landing on top of him and surviving, but he manages to get him off.
Pulls out the sword.
Pulls out the clean. Yeah, using a damaged shirt of Tam's, and he manages to find some water. Which was
basically, essentially, he gathers supplies that he needs,
But surprised that the water bucket had managed to stay up, and considering the rest of the house had been
It wasn't a water bucket. It was the
the water bucket he brought in from the well.
It was the bottle that he uses.
It wasn't a bottle. It was a bucket. Yep. Well, whatever. The water container. I'll phrase it water container. It held water and it stayed upright despite all the
chaos that was going on. Yes, but he filled his not a tankard, the water bottle thing.
Yeah,
with them.
Water skin.
Their water skin. That's it.
Filled the water skin, from there, and washed his hands and whatnot, and then he set out. After getting that stuff, he sets out to the barn.
Yes,
and that's
with the candle.
With the candle, lantern. Which is open. It's not. Hasn't got the glass protecting it. To try and see what supplies he can get from there. See if he can get the cart.
Yeah, finds that basically Bella gone, cart damaged, so basically turns the cart over and uses the sword.
Well, first of all, he's going, oh, crap, what am I going to do now? But then he does see that he does use the sword to try and break up some the cart into manageable pieces so that he can make a shift.
Makeshift, yep.
From it, basically a trolley that he can of sorts he can put his father on. He's a little wary about that because he didn't want to leave a trail.
He carried it.
He carried it, but it was. And here's where we find out something. Another interesting thing about the sword. With the wood that that he was cutting was dense, and the comment is made that it would blunt a normal axe.
Sharp axe.
A sharp axe. That would have cut that, but the sword itself seems to cut through it without a problem. So whatever this sword is it's not decorative. It is definitely not decorative. And I don't know if elves exist in this, but it seems to be of some kind of elvish type metal.
High quality make.
Or a high quality make, yes, I would agree with that. Maybe mithril or something. I mean,
mithril, really?
Well, I mean,
Where does it say Mistral anywhere in that? But you get the idea.
you get the idea that it's a high quality.
It's a very unique, high quality.
I don't know, maybe there's samurai in this. I don't know, because samurai make some really nice swords. They do. Well, I don't know. I mean, we don't know who the weapon masters are in this series yet.
No.
And quite frankly, I think I do look forward to to reading some comments about how ridiculous some of our theories have been so far. But the fact that there are so many people listening to this, and once again, I do want to thank you for that. Is showing that at least we're being entertaining with some of our theories. But yeah, so the sword manages to
do its work.
And
gets the supplies from the house, and then heads into the wood to get
carrying this thing very awkwardly.
Yes.
Because it almost trips over a few times. It manages to stay upright.
Yeah.
But manages to get back to his father, who has actually fallen asleep.
Having
passed out
dreams.
and initially does
nightmares.
Yeah. But Rand does manage to rouse him a little so that he can get them onto this thing.
I think at present moment, he's not gotten him on anything. He's just grabbed blanket and jacket and just sort of done what he can with him. If you recall, the medical supply box was smashed to bits and there was gluggy blood all over the
Good point.
medical supplies, so he wasn't even going to go near it and touch it because of all of the things. But yeah.
But he does say to Tam, to his father that we'll get you to the village. We'll get you, and once we get to Nineveh, everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And that's essentially where the chapter ends.
Aside from the fact that he wished that he actually managed to have a bath.
Yeah. Or certainly wants to have... Well, after wading through all that and having this huge, ugly, kind of gross, animalistic type thing land on top of him.
Yes.
All bloody and whatnot. Yeah, I can agree. Get this crap off me.
He definitely wanted to have a bath, although he did say that, once he took off the bloody shirt and put on the clean shirt, it was like he had a bath. But really, it's kind of like, well, I kind of wish I had a little more. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what occurs. And I'm kind of curious as to whether or not Tam makes it through this, because he does have that fever.
True.
And it came on rather quick.
And the loss of blood from his wound as well. I mean,
it doesn't say what kind of wound he has, but
it's somewhere we do know it's a gut wound.
It's a gut wound, yes.
Of some kind. And they're never good.
And it clearly isn't. It clearly isn't a quick blood loss thing.
No, I would agree.
He's only had it for an hour or two, so it's not or less than. So it's not an infection of the wound. Like the wound is not infected, which is why I'm saying that the weapon had to have been poisoned in some way for him to be able to have a fever that early on.
Well, again, we'll see. So the next chapter is entitled...
And he's also having nightmares.
True.
So.
But again, there are many reasons that could be. So the next chapter is entitled The Westwood. So what do you think is going to happen in that one?
Well, obviously it's all going to be about travelling through the woods so they can get to the village. And what happens there?
Chase ain't over yet?
Oh, I don't think the chase is over yet, no. Whether or not if Leave persuades him to leave him behind, or if he ends up finding that Tam is just not waking up from the sleep or whatever, I don't know, and he decides to make a dash to the village and bring back
help
that way, don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. But obviously at present moment, given Tam's weight and given how weak he is, definitely is not able to move very
under
far.
His own steam.
And under his own steam.
No, I agree.
So, yeah, he's going to have to think of something interesting. That's for sure. But I don't think that the chase is over.
Oh, heck no. Despite what Tam said, that these guys give up easy.
Yeah, I don't
not quite that easy. No. I think that Rand is going to leave some kind of I can think of a couple of possibilities. Either A, Rand is going to be leaving a trail to wherever he's going, to the village or through the woods or whatever, and these trolls are going to pick up on it and kind of after him.
He did do his best not to leave that trail.
True, but
because he made an effort to carry that entire supply.
But it was awkward, which means that there would have been footprints.
Footprints, but not drag. He made it as little mark as he possibly could.
Oh, as a bit of a side note, his bow is also broken. He found that in the house, which was a shame because it's a pretty good bow from the way I'm picturing it. It's like breaking Legolas's bow. You don't do that.
Really? I don't think it was quite Legolas level, but whatever.
Okay, well, let me have my illusions.
Maybe like Aragon's bow.
Kind of a Rager maid?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think more that level than anything else. Not quite Legolas level.
So he's got no ranged weapon. He only has the sword at this particular point now. We'll see what happens with the next chapter and next episode of ANK's Wheel of Time book commentary. We do want to thank those who have been listening thus far. If you do want to contact us to provide us some feedback or kind of tell us how funny we're being in terms of some of our completely ridiculous theories, we're more than happy to get that kind of feedback on.
Just no spoilers.
Yeah,
because we're not read up before.
Good point, and just try and keep it spoiler free.
And woohoo! We finally got some action.
Well, fair point.
Well, I mean, I was like, where's the? There's several. It's not until you get to chapter 5 that you actually finally get some action, swords and fighting and interesting stuff.